mission of your university works,
Right.
and then where is the intersection of interest that we can connect and collaborate together if there is any.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So, yeah, I have a PowerPoint, but I think you can see some of this if you move a bit closer. So one question is, why establish a new university? Because there's many excellent
Exactly. We
universities.
already have thousands of plethora of universities in the United States.
So that's a question.
And what is the value proposition here?
Yep.
How we are delivering differently than the other universities?
And just follow up on that is this university accredited?
Exactly.
If it's accredited,
that was my follow-up question, but you already came.
Because getting a degree from accredited university and non-accredited, two different things, right?
Yes.
And even though I'm not saying like education will be different or anything, but so that would be, I would be more interested on that also.
Right. Okay.
Very good point. Thank you.
Yep. So, why is the origin? So I think after helping governments set up different universities around the world, I saw a gap in our education system. There's not a very good policy analysis and research gap linkage. So every 3 seconds someone dies in the world with bad policy. So how do we train people from local communities who can share their knowledge to make a difference, to overcome that? That was one of the origins. Native Americans have an average life expectancy of 49 years. The average in the community is 30 years greater. So it's that's a very serious gap. So that's one of the origins. If you want to move closer, we don't have a projector.
Exactly. Please come forward, and it will be easier to communicate.
Yeah, so my name is Darryl Mesa. Welcome. I'm from Aotearoa, New Zealand, but I'm talking about a new university and the question of why do we found a new university. So the American University of Sovereign Nations. So what I've gathered is the mission is here. So to advance education, health, safety, welfare, and the well-being of populations and the environment throughout the world by providing our graduates with the highest level of knowledge, skills, and creative and analytical critical thinking ability necessary to become future leaders, academics, scholars, and clinical practitioners who are dedicated to the promotion of respect for human rights, fundamental freedoms, peace, a sense of human dignity, and the promotion of understanding, tolerance, and friendship among all nations and all people. So, good morning. One of the distinct things is we're on sovereign land. So, in the United States, there are 560 Native American tribes. There are 23 tribal colleges who are offering like first to second year education. And they're controlled by the federal government, and their quality is generally low. In fact, relatively low. And so many of the smarter Native Americans will not go to a tribal college, they go to a regular university. So a decolonized university, we try to use knowledge from many different systems and also many different disciplines together. I think, how do we rejoice in diversity and pluralism? And this is a movement around the world, I guess, towards decolonized systems. So you might have challenges to the European traditional curriculum. Traditional medicine is also promoted, so how can we, the idea is to be the first medical school on sovereign land in US history because of its public health gap. So our process towards accreditation is the following. So we started 3 years ago. We got our license to operate 4 master's programs 2 years ago. We needed 2 years of graduates, which we have now 25 graduates already. In the next 4 months we'll have another 25 graduates. Our discussions are with 2 accreditation agencies. One is, or the process, one is the national accreditation and one is regional accreditation with Chicago. So we're in the process for both of these, but basically you needed graduates in the process. So it's kind of step by step. So we're in that process.
University located in Chicago?
Yes, so regional is for the Higher Learning Commission in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and the national is with a national accreditation agency based in Washington. And national takes a shorter time. I've already that's sort of on the process.
Yeah.
And also we attached as a university of the United Nations. So United Nations Academic Impact is a formal network of universities. So we have that UN backing. From a sovereign nation point of view, we're also trying to help sovereign nations think about their education system, because do they need to be totally dependent on the federal government, which I think has not helped some of the...
Yeah, when you say sovereign land, you mean like the land which is not governed
Tribal
by
land.
federal government?
Tribal land.
Or tribal land, yes.
Tribal
not
land.
governed by federal
Yeah,
government.
yes. So, I mean, the foundation is really all peoples have a right to self-determination. So how can we empower people to have self-determination? A lot of people go through university and don't realize they should be able to make good moral choices and good life choices. So that's the idea. My field is academic field is bioethics, so our most popular degree is bioethics. It's like ethics of science and technology, environmental ethics, medical ethics. We started 2 years ago. It's already the largest bioethics program globally. So although many established universities have a bioethics program, because of my work and a network of faculty, it's already become the largest bioethics program globally. We started our PhD program in January. We have more than 30 doctoral students, and probably will double that by the end of the year. So it's really focusing on graduate level education. Dialogue of ethics is prehistoric. There's many sources of wisdom, and we can apply it to many, many areas. When I grew up in the Pacific, we have like community decision making, and that's more like Nepal, more like Asia and Pacific, and actually like most parts of the world. So we try to describe different views of nature. Also, we look at new technologies. So many of our faculty, basically our visiting faculty work for free. They're all professors in different universities around the world. But we look at questions like, new technology, information ethics, space ethics, bioethics. This is a timeline. If you'd like a copy, I can give you a PowerPoint.
Yeah, please. I think that would be helpful. If you would mind to share with us
Yes.
a copy of the presentation.
So
By
if
the
you
way,
have
would you mind to elaborate a little bit? I was going to figure out his question. The accreditation, you just mentioned the regional and national level, or
Yep.
state level, or I don't know what the
So we
accreditation process.
Okay, so our process, I'll show you the degrees and what they do. So by the way, faculty from many countries, the brochures here. So far only one faculty member is from Nepal, Dr. Kaki, who's the secretary of the Health Research Council.
Dr. Kim Kaki.
Yeah. So on our programs,
Yes.
From Nepal?
yeah,
I know.
you know, yeah. So he's one of our faculty, and we did a workshop in.
He was the member or secretary of the National Health Research Council in Nepal.
Yes.
Yeah, now he is.
He still is, yeah. And so we had a joint session there, and he came to our campus to give the lectures as well in Arizona.
Yeah, he's the president of NAC.
I see. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Namaste. Yeah, so for accreditation, so the accreditation process is usually the whole institution is accredited. Our active programs, so I have a Master's in Public Health, a Master's in Bioethics and Global Public Health, PhD program, and a Certificate in Community and Peace. So everything is licensed in Arizona. So it's recognized as in the US because of state licenses. In some states, you cannot offer a degree without accreditation. In Arizona, you can get licensing from the state. And for accreditation, you have to have graduates in order to get accredited. So we're in that process. Because we needed 2 years of graduates, which we have to get accreditation. And we start the workshop. The national accreditation process takes about 1 year, and the regional takes 5 years, usually 4 or 5 years. And we're started on both phases.
How do the certificate programs work?
The certificates are shorter, like it's these ones in the US, 1 credit hour is 15 contact hours. So certificate hours are 10 credit hours, which means 150 contact hours of lectures. And the master's degrees are 480 contact hours, 32 credit hours. And for the Masters in Public Health and Bioethics, you must write a thesis as well, a 20,000 word thesis, and publish a paper, which people do. Ramesh has graduated, Doma is on the way. But they, for the Master's MBA or the Healthcare Administration, we make it optional. So people can choose. Some people are not going to do research, they more prefer to do courses. So we've actually offered the first Master's in Public Health on Native American land. And as I said, there were a 30-year gap in life expectancy. Maybe part of the reason is this dependency and the Indian Health Service and a general lack of empowerment in Native American communities. Need a master's or PhD. So in terms of, that's also part of related to accreditation, that in order to teach a program, you need to have a degree in it. So there's a tremendous need globally for public health and bioethics and sustainability. So we're trying to train faculty.
Dr. Mister, I have one question for
Yes.
you. Is this degree and the course that is offered by this university, how different is it from the one that we get from our traditional universities around us?
Okay.
And the second question is,
Yeah.
based on the graduate students' competitiveness in the market after they graduate from, how they are doing
Okay.
for those students who already graduated from the
Right.
university?
Okay. So fortunately, all our graduates are employed. Okay.
In the same line of field, business or?
Yes, in the same line of field. For example, some were assistant professor, and after the degree they got promotion to associate professor, or some freshly took up jobs in teaching. Some are working in research, some are working in NGO. What is different? Probably several, of course, the courses on indigenous knowledge systems and indigenous traditions is one. That's not usually offered. The faculty coming from all around the world that are teaching the courses means you may teach, let's say you're teaching ethics of science and technology, and he's teaching ethics of science and technology. But we have professors from 8 or 9 countries who can teach that course. So they may teach in different ways, to for an example.
What is the mode of the delivery of that teaching? Do you say the contact hours or something?
Yeah, contact hours. So the
Is it more
contact.
online or
It's
correspondence
it's a
based?
mixture. So I'll show you here. This is a slide. Yeah. So students start any time of the year. So they can start today. They can do a hybrid. So basically, in-person classes in Arizona, or in our training workshops around the world. So in June, I had a 1-week workshop in Turkey, a 1-week workshop in Thailand, 2 days in Japan, and I'm flying this afternoon to Mexico for a 1-week workshop in Mexico. So the students can join whichever regional hub is more convenient. We had a workshop in Kathmandu a year and a half ago, and we do more depending on the students. So some people are busy working in their job and they can't come to Arizona, or so they prefer to come to Thailand, or they prefer to come to Australia, or they prefer to come to England or Spain or wherever. So also for supervision, for research, let's say you want to research on Spanish environmental law, it's better that you go to Spain than to come to America. Okay. Or let's say you want to work on, peace and conflict in Nigeria, it's better that you are in Nigeria rather than America. And our professors there would supervise you. That the classes then would be group Skype. So even this morning I was doing group Skype, and we don't. Some universities use things like Adobe Connect and other things, but what happens is generally the students come to some of these workshops through the year, and they'll meet each other, and then when they join on group Skype, they know each other. It's like a discussion. In addition, half our students are faculty, so the level of discussion is quite interesting, because discussing is like a journal club or research seminar, or let's say you're a business person and you'd be meeting, you might meet people in different practice and discuss. So it's a graduate program. We decided there's enough undergraduate degrees, and at the moment it's still an issue because many Native Americans still need that. But we're focused. Ramesh, you came to Arizona for 6 months last year to finish kind of do in person and join in all the activities. I think you went to Mexico as well. And
and when I enrolled in this university for the first time in August 2014, when I was here for a youth conference, which we organized in different countries, Darryl and I organized in different countries, and then I joined this university for the first time, and then in regular basis I come to US, and I studied for 6 months, staying in Arizona in the Native American land, and we did different kind of activities with the Native American people, and I just graduated in February 2016. I did my thesis defense in Bangkok, where there was a forum, and I love the course because it's a mandatory to attend 3 international conferences in order to graduate. So you can travel, you can learn, you can meet people, and it's amazing that when you sit in the sky to learn, you can find people from all around the world, and at least 25 to 30 countries you can find in Skype. So it's a very good way of learning.
yeah. And on transfer of credits, so it's sort of standard formula. So for those who have an existing master's program, up to 9 credits can be transferred. And for doctoral program, if you had a master's degree before, 30 credits can be transferred. But again, I need to see exactly and see the status of the university that it came from. So this is, so that people who are moving can move a university, and this is the formula that these are the standard credit hours that are allowed in the US and allowed in Arizona. For example, this is a class we did in the Indonesian National Museum. Our students currently come from these countries, and from these sovereign nations in the US. As I said, many already have a professional background, but they want to get licensed to teach public health or bioethics or sustainability, or they're just very interested in the subject.
On your same note, you said, you have a transfer program, and if somebody does a master's or a PhD program, and would that be transferable to the other universities as well?
It depends on the other university. They must decide. So we work closely with Arizona State University, and I'm adjunct faculty there. But generally, we don't encourage or recommend, and we don't guarantee that our credits will be accepted by another university. We will accept credits from an accredited university in the US, or internationally recognized university. But once students join, we expect them to complete, and we can't guarantee that they'll be transferable. So people should be sure they want to come. Another question on the visa. We do not offer J1 visas to people because we're a new university. Most of our students come on a B1 or B2 visa. And I think the advantage of that is that most are doing research or business, and there's no time limit. That it does mean that within 6 months they have to leave the US. Yeah, but that's usually enough to complete their courses anyway. But it means they have a visa for another 5 years or 10 years, depending on their country. So they can continue to, it's not limited like the student visa system. I think the student visa system is useful, but we're hoping that people are a bit more, they're interested in changing the world, are more mature. It's a graduate school, so that's the system.
Professor, I have one question.
Yep.
One question about the teachers.
Yeah. Yes.
This is a little bit different than our traditional universities.
Yes.
Where a professor have to have certain qualifications to be called
Yep.
professor. Are all those teachers that we give course from online, what kind of qualifications are demanded by your university before they start to teach these courses?
Yes, well basically of the 80 faculty, 2 do not have a doctorate. Okay, so we have 2. One is an indigenous leader, whose name is Wensler Nosey, Senior. He's a campaigner, and he's an exception. And there's one other exception who only has a master's. Everyone else has at least 1 doctorate.
That's quite impressive.
Yeah, yeah. So it is graduate. Yeah, basically I made a dream team of people around the world that I worked with in UNESCO. So in 1990 I went to Japan and I established the first bioethics master's and doctoral program in Japan. I had 25 graduates there. Then I went to UNESCO to try and do it globally, but I decided, that was in 2004, I left Japan and I moved to university in Japan. I was in Tsukuba University, in Tsukuba Science City in Japan. For the last 10 years I've been attached to Kumamoto University. But I decided this would be a very interesting challenge to make a university in the United States that's decolonized and for people all around the world, and bringing together people all around the world. And I think the future of universities will be like this, because you can study anywhere.
Absolutely. A lot of universities, including the Harvard and the Stanford,
Yeah.
they're offering online classes, and
Yeah.
the accredited classes
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So definitely that's the way to do it in the
Yeah.
near future, in the long run.
Mm.
But at the same time, my only concern is how we can still the level of confidence and the competency
Mm.
throughout this
Mm.
education program.
Yeah.
That still could be something that we need to address.
Yes, I think it is. I think, for the graduate program, because so far the master's programs we're offering are public health and bioethics. They have to write a thesis, they have to publish at least 1 paper. So the paper needs to be in a reasonable journal, and they're establishing the research connections, so that's good. The question is really for, let's say, an MBA. If you're offering an MBA and you don't do a thesis, then your connection is less. I mean, the Harvard MBA is going to be better. But if you were working on a Native American reservation, the indigenous courses might make a difference, that some people might find that useful. But I think that is the question, and whether the knowledge system and the connections that you have made in different countries. So I guess the close connection that you've made with people who were your teachers or supervisors in different countries. And so although I don't like to use the term online because most of the people are doing intensive courses or staying in different places with faculty, but we do the group Skype and dialogue. We do offer, so you can see also many of our lectures are on YouTube for free. We have a YouTube video channel, about 100 lectures are on there. But to get credit, of course, you need to enroll. But at least the knowledge can be shared, and it gives an idea for people.
So, sorry, I missed the opportunity to hear from you in the beginning.
Yeah.
Now I want to know what is the concept behind this name, the American University of Sovereign Nations.
Okay. So the concept comes from the first sentence of the UN Charter, United Nations Charter, which is "We the peoples of the world." So it wasn't "We the nations of the world," it was actually "We the peoples." So how do we make a concept of learning from all the peoples around the world, not just the nations? So in 1945, of course, much of the world was still colonized. Nepal was lucky it wasn't. Thailand was lucky it wasn't. And Japan had just lost the war, so it became colonized. But it was sort of every other country was basically colonized. So sovereign nation is that nations should be sovereign. It's slightly... Now, in some countries, they use the term sovereign nation. In the US, they use the term sovereign nation. In Canada, they use First Nations, as you know. But in some countries, they don't want to open this question that indigenous tribe is a different nation. They just say different people. But that's the same meaning. And another meaning is every nation should stand on its own. Globalization is useful, but you can see sometimes people like to leave.
So how long have you been doing this university?
Started 3 years ago.
3 years. And do you have any cost, like fee structures or anything?
Yes, we have a fee structure. The fee is on the web. I can go on the web if you like. The fee is $15,000 for the masters, but many people are getting scholarships to cover much of this.
Who gives those scholarships?
I have an NGO called UBISF Institute, which is trying to promote intellectual discussion. UBIS Ethics Institute. The university gave also sovereign nation scholarships to many people, and some tribes are supporting their students. We don't accept federal loans, and we never want to accept federal loans. I don't accept that students should be in debt when they leave university. So let's say you want to join the program, we will discuss what's a fair cost for you. And then in the future, if you get a good job, maybe you can donate something to the university. Okay? But education in the US is really it's an exploitative business. And more people loan student loans and even mortgages. I mean,
right now, that is a major issue in the US financial system.
Yeah, and let's say, for example, in the US, you could buy a university if you accept all the student loans, so basically the universities have got themselves into so much trouble accepting federal loans. We try to keep costs down because we try to keep administration down to minimum. And many faculty work for free. They travel to the intensive workshops for free. They give their time. For example, Professor Lopez, she's behind, Lara, is in residence for 1 year. Her university supports her a little bit on sabbatical, and then she's offering courses. And in fact, this is the one on, we're doing intensive courses like mindfulness and other things. So we do, one other thing we do is, besides degrees, we also do the Youth Peace Ambassador program. Now I started this 7 years ago in Hiroshima. The 12th workshop will be in 2 weeks' time in San Carlos Apache Nation. If you would like to come and be in the Apache Nation, you're most welcome to join. And we're hoping that your former Prime Minister is joining us with a delegation as well. I've organized these around the world in places of conflict. And how do we rebuild? And so as a result of these meetings, what we do, I also organize forums looking beyond disaster. So actually, the 7th forum was in Kathmandu, and so in the forum in Christchurch and in Japan, some of the Nepalese joined. So when the tragedy of the earthquake happened, they were immediately with youth networks able to empower youth, because governments and others cannot cope with such a disaster. You need everyone to work together. So these sort of forums, we've trained a lot of people to develop action plans. So 650 youth have joined this. I started this with my NGO called Ubaya Ethics Institute. And it's fine to offer people some certificate for training as a youth peace ambassador, but this also is part of a background that really, to get a job, they need a degree. They need a postgraduate certificate. They need some stronger piece of paper and stronger forum experience. And then the sort of action plans they work on, many things on social action. Maybe you have some action plan you're working on after the earthquake, Ramesh and Dalma.
In YPA, the first forum I attended was Looking Beyond Disaster in 2012 in Sendai, Japan. When I was a very young person at the time, and then I happened to have an action plan in that forum to organize a conference in Nepal to bring youth from different countries, and we were successful to host different forums, and we also worked with Nepalese Olympic Committee for 2 years to educate and empower people about Olympics. And in 2013 we tried to aware the government about natural disasters and especially earthquake, but no one helped us. And in 2015 we had the earthquake, and then we started an action plan to make a memorial park for those victims. And I think government has already provided us the land, and we are working to raise the funds to develop a memorial park which have the museums, the earthquake buildings and the remains of earthquake, and you can actually feel what happened in 25th of April 2015. So we are developing that infrastructure. So that was my action plan for 2015 October. And in YPA 12, which is happening in 2 weeks' time in Arizona, we talked with the former Prime Minister, a few of them, and when I have said okay to come with the delegation, his name is Salmat Khanal, and I think he is sending his flights, I think this week, if you want to say. So he's flying with a group of 13, 14 people.
Just one question. What is the accreditation status of this
So
university?
we were discussing that. We have started the process, but we needed to have 2 years of graduates to get accredited to go to the next step, and we've just got 2 years of graduates. So we only had 2 years. We got our license in end of April 2 years ago.
2 years of graduate means like 2 batches of students.
2 batches of students have to graduate. So we've had 2 batches of students and the right number, and then so this is part of And the first, workshops were national and regional, so I attend, and it's compulsory as part of the accreditation process. And then licensure in Arizona is also checks that we're, they come and do site visits and other things to check that we're following our standard procedures. So I think for them the most interesting thing is, because we're offering scholarships to many students, this means it's a rather interesting model, because as we mentioned, many American university is really expensive, or gets people in debt for the rest of their life. So how can we avoid this? So that's what we're trying to do as well.
So what are your next plans, and how you think it will be sustainable? Because I think right now you are the main person doing this.
Yeah.
If you are not there, what would be the plan for?
So I guess we have one is the Alumni Association, which is 25 people now. So we're trying to get them to organize activity. I'm just going to make a hotspot so I can show you my a faculty. The faculty, it's okay. So we sort of this is from the university. So we have a corporate board, we have board of governors, and we have both. Former UN Director General, Assistant Director Generals of UN agencies, as well as young people. Ramesh is actually since he graduated, is becoming a board of governors. So we're trying to get young. We have many, former ministers from New Zealand, people from many different countries. We have a board of advisors who are all indigenous. Okay, indigenous people from around the world, a lot from North America. So that's trying to get the boards involved, and a faculty. There is a brochure which I have a copy I can give to you. But a faculty from many countries. So they are all employed by their own university. Some are recently retired from the university, but they're working for AUSN as well. But we don't pay them. So sustainability in the future is a question, because we really need a solid partner for financial aspects. That's one aspect. We're hoping that our alumni will share into the plan. We're also looking for, we were in Phoenix in the Salt River Pima Maricopa tribe in Scottsdale. For a couple of years we had some of their staff go through the programs to graduate. But we've moved to the Apache Nation because we think they're more ideologically similar, even though and they probably need us more. And this last week Lara and I have been teaching all their teachers for a week intensive course. So we do that sort of intensive teaching program as well, to train trainers and so on.
So were you able to bring any grants or any supports from the government or tribal community?
At the moment, no. We apply, of course, as researchers for research grants. The disadvantage of this is a financial challenge. The advantage is we're not a tribal college, so we can do what we like. So let's say if our faculty and board and people in the community say, we need a program on this, we can do it. So I worked for 15 years as a Japanese professor, not as a foreigner, but as a Japanese professor. And Japan was quite bureaucratic. Then I went to UNESCO, and initially I thought, UNESCO is good, less bureaucracy, but it was only because it was English bureaucracy instead of Japanese. And I found actually UN is quite bureaucratic and quite political. And generally I could do what I liked, but then when the regime changed to become a bit more restricting, and for example, I couldn't go to Iran, for example, when the US decided that Iran should be under sanctions. So senior UN officials couldn't go to Iran. So even though the Iranian government wanted me to talk about philosophy and social science to support the guys who were trying to promote human rights, because the US said the UN shouldn't send, the UN, my Director General and UNESCO said, I cannot go. And so that bureaucracy was interfering. So now it is nice to be independent of federal government.
That's good.
Yeah.
So everything, I like the programs and you have done so far, and it was very good, and looks like it will attract people. The only question is, how can we make it sustainable in the future? I think that is the only question here, and if young people like him come fully committed, and then you will be able to do it.
Well, I hope so, but I mean, young people supported by community members who have some more financial resources as well. And but this is the a challenge, but it is interesting. But it keeps us. It's like the ancient academies, in a sense. So if people share what they can, then that's good, and then we can keep going. But even for things like, we need some sustainability. We need to find some friends who have slightly bigger pockets than young people who don't have much, and many indigenous people don't have much. On the other hand, many young people spend their money on, partial funding for programs which do not have much interest in students, and they sort of that's something which is important. Well, thank you for your questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So please, if you have any friends, I'll be here.
Very, very impressive, Professor.
Thank you.
Good luck later.